Let's bring in our headliner, House Minority Whip and Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise. Congressman, good morning to you. I know you'll be receiving the Vice President down there a short time from now. We'll talk about that in a minute, but wow, these jobs numbers, this is more proof of an economic boom in this country. Your reaction?
Yeah, Sandra, this is great news for American workers. I mean, you look at the numbers, 268,000 jobs. The estimates were going to be maybe less than 200. So this is even better news than we were expecting. Like you said, 49-year low in unemployment. And by the way, wages are up for hardworking families. And that's really, for those people that are trying to get into the middle class, become part of the American dream. That's the best news, that they now are seeing more money in their paychecks. So clearly the work that we did with President Trump to lower taxes and get regulations under control is paying huge dividends for American workers today.
What is the indication of a robust economic report like this for 2020, Congressman?
Well, President Trump made it clear when he ran for president that he wanted to get the economy going again. He wanted to stand up and fight for American workers, those men and women who had been left behind for the last 10 years. And it's working. It's delivering for those very people. So this is great for the president's message going into 2020, that we want to keep this going. Why would you want to go back to this government control, the government literally raising your taxes, taking more control away, when President Trump's proposals and the things that he's done and gotten signed into law are actually working and delivering on those promises for those hardworking families. So I think this is great news for President Trump. It's even greater news for American men and women, hardworking families all across America who had been looking for relief for years and years, and they've finally gotten it.
Still a lot of questions, though, about that China trade deal, whether or not it gets done. Some make the case that this stock market is enjoying robust gains in anticipation of that. What is your expectation there? Does something ultimately get done, Congressman?
Well, there's a real opportunity in the fact that President Trump is at least trying to get China to agree to fair trade. And by fair, I mean stop stealing our intellectual property, stop dumping products and manipulating currency with real enforcement behind it. And so even without that deal in place, we're seeing this great economic news. Imagine if we get USMCA, the new agreement with Mexico and Canada, and then get an agreement with China where we can actually have real enforcement teeth in place. All this is being done by President Trump's administration. So with these great reports, there's even greater opportunity if that gets done.
I know Bill's got some questions for you back in New York.
Thank you, Sandra. Sir, on the topic of Bill Barr, Democrats clearly think he lied this week. Here's Nancy Pelosi in her comment from yesterday.
He lied to Congress. He lied to Congress. If anybody else did that, it would be considered a crime. Nobody is above the law, not the President of the United States and not the Attorney General. Being the Attorney General does not give you a bath to go say whatever you want, and it is the fact because you are the Attorney General.
What do you believe is at play now, sir?
No, that's ludicrous to suggest that about Attorney General Barr and what he's done. Think about this. They said, by the way, these are the same people that promised for 2 years that there would be this collusion with Russia, obstruction of justice. None of it happened. You're looking at great contrast here, Bill. You've got this great economic news because our policies are working. President Trump is delivering for families. Speaker Pelosi and her liberal lieutenants, by the way, they missed the legal deadline to pass a budget just a few weeks ago. They've done absolutely nothing to lower health care costs for families who are seeing increased costs on health care and increasing deductibles. They haven't done a thing for the American worker with their majority, and all they want to do is keep harassing President Trump, harassing his administration and his family because they want to change the subject. They don't want to talk about how great the economy is going because they don't agree with the proposals. And it's a shame because, look, families are benefiting from this. We should be celebrating the fact that families are seeing higher wages. And instead, Speaker Pelosi doesn't want to see those policies work. So they want to just keep going after President Trump and his administration.
Well,
people are tired of that.
Lindsey Graham called it offensive in response to Nancy Pelosi's statement there. Department of Justice quickly with a response from yesterday. Here's part of that statement. Speaker Pelosi's baseless attack on the Attorney General is reckless, irresponsible, and false. And when you contrast that with the opinion piece in the Wall Street Journal today, the headline reading Pelosi's preemptive smear, the Speaker is worried about what Bill Barr might reveal about 2016. What do you think that is as the story moves to another phase?
Well, Bill, and first I share those comments by Senator Graham. And when you look at the 2016 attacks on President Trump, there was, it looks like we've seen some evidence of spying on the Trump campaign by the previous administration. They're going to have to answer for that. A lot more is coming out on that. What about the Steele dossier? There's more questions being asked about the motivations behind the beginning of this whole investigation. It was all going to be about collusion. There was no collusion. And so what did they spend the last 2 years doing? And they spent over $35 million of taxpayer money going on this witch hunt, and they still won't give it up. People are ready to focus on the real issues that matter to families. And instead, Nancy Pelosi and her liberal lieutenants want to just keep smearing and attacking and making crazy radical statements with nothing to back it up.
It appears there's a lot more to come on this, and we'll follow it when that happens. Back to Sandra for another topic now, Sandra.
Congressman, as you know, Louisiana, dear to so many of our hearts. The vice president is making his way down there now. He's going to be meeting with members of 3 black churches that burned to the ground from an arsonist who's now been charged with hate crimes. I know you're going to be meeting with the vice president.
Yes, I am, Sandra. You know, the vice president's going to be coming down to Lafayette and right around this town of Opelousas, Louisiana, a very tight-knit community. You saw these 3 horrific burnings of these black churches that some cases go back almost 100 years in these wonderful communities. And so for the vice president to come and send a message that President Trump stands in solidarity with them and that we're going to be there with them to rebuild. There's fund sites already that have raised over $2 million to help them rebuild. And look, we're a resilient people in South Louisiana. This community of Opelousas is a resilient people, but we really appreciate that the vice president's going to come down to meet with the leaders of these churches and send that message from President Trump that we're standing with them. And look, the prayers are real and the concerns are real that we rebuild.
We heard that support and unity inside the White House just a few moments ago for the members of those black churches and for the people of Louisiana. Congressman Steve Scalise, appreciate you coming on America's Newsroom this morning. Thank you.
Sandra, great to be with you and Bill.
Thank you, sir.